without further ado, Mr. Ask a Millionaire, Shawn Thomas.
Thanks, Frank. Hello, hello, hello. So these three guys are going to go to heaven, they think, and they walk up to the pearly gates with Peter, and Peter says, you know, heaven's kind of full. We're only taking people that had really bad deaths in heaven these days. So would you tell me what happened? So the first guy says, well, I suspected that my wife was cheating on me. So I came home from work one day, and there she was, stark naked, like the day she was born, on the couch, and I knew something was going on. I look out onto the balcony, and there's these hands hanging onto the balcony. So I go over and I start stepping on this guy's hands. He won't let go. So I go down and I bite this guy's hands. He will not let go. I grab a hammer, hit him. Finally, he lets go. I see him dropping, and he lands in some bushes, and he's alive. So I run over, and I grab the refrigerator. I push it across the room. I push it out over the balcony and crushes him dead. Well, in the process, I give myself a heart attack, and I die. And that's why I'm here. St. Peter says, all right, that was a pretty bad death. We'll let you in. He says, well, what about you? He says, well, I live on the 26th floor of this building, and every single day I go out on the balcony and I exercise. Well, the day before it had rained, and I slipped off my balcony, and luckily I'd landed on the 25th floor and was holding on. This guy comes and starts biting my hands and hits me with a hammer, and I fall off. I'm thinking I'm going to die, but I landed on some bushes, and I'm thanking God that I survived, and then comes down this refrigerator and kills me, and that's why I'm here. He says, well, that was a pretty bad death. We're going to let you in. And he says, well, what happened to you? He says, well, imagine this. I'm laying naked in a refrigerator. All right, so that gets us started. How do I get this thing connected up here? Matt? Anybody? So first off, I want to thank Matt and Frank and Lisa for introducing me to Matt and Chris. Thanks for letting me here today. I am not a professional speaker. This is not what I do for a living. So I'm going to apologize if I'm a little unprofessional on my speaking capabilities. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share a little bit about my story as an entrepreneur that has turned me into becoming a mentor and an angel investor into other entrepreneurs' companies. A lot of it's going to mimic a lot of the stuff I heard Anthony say and a lot of stuff that Rocky said about mindset and what success means to us and how to define it and how to achieve it. And then over the last 3 years, I've built up a personal brand on Instagram called Ask a Millionaire. Do you need some help? Or are you good?
No, I'm good. I'm just waiting for Chrome to quit.
Okay, cool. And I started a brand on Instagram 3 years ago called Ask a Millionaire. After I sold my company back in 2013, which I'm going to give you some story, I'm just ad-libbing here. I started building a personal brand on Instagram. And over the last 3 years, I've built up close to 1.3 million followers on Instagram, both on a business account, a niche account called Ask a Millionaire. So you can look at it on your phone if you would like. And then a personal brand called AKA Shawn Thomas. And so over the last 3 years, I have actually converted being a traditional business owner, doing sales, selling computer systems to hotels all around the world, doing business with the top hotel chains like Marriott, Hilton, Choice Hotels, Intercontinental, to then becoming a mentor to other entrepreneurs. And during this journey, I've learned a lot about social media. I fell in love with Instagram. I'm a very visual person, so I really love the platform of Instagram, and I started hiring coaches, taking courses, webinars, anything you can imagine. I have pretty much hired every single person to help me on Instagram, so I've learned all the strategies. And that was some of the stuff that Frank was telling you. At the end of my talk, I'll go through a couple Instagram strategies for those of you that are trying to utilize Instagram to build your brand and to get conversions on social media. I'll give you a couple strategies of 99% of the mistakes that are just made just in the profile of an Instagram account that can help you today. So hopefully you can walk away today with a little bit of valuable knowledge. And with that said, I know Matt's going to turn it on right now.
I'm going to. Alex, can I borrow your adapter? So the guy in the fridge.
Yeah. Well, how about this?
I understand how that went.
How about this? While he's doing that, does anybody use Instagram right now for business? Okay. So what I want to do is while he's doing that, I'll just kind of talk to you about the last part while we're doing this. Okay. And you can ask me questions. Go to your Instagram account now if you have your phone on you now, and I'll just give you a quick little consulting session on what to do with Instagram as far as setting up your profile. 99% of the people that I work with just set up their profile incorrectly to not take advantage of some of the things that Chris was talking about with Instagram, with social media, search engine optimization. Instagram has their own algorithm. So the first thing you want to take a look at is in your Instagram profile. If you're going to edit your profile, you get a username and you get name. You don't want those to be the same. So for instance, my username on Instagram is AKA Shawn Thomas because Shawn Thomas was taken and I wasn't fortunate enough to sign up quickly enough. But my name is a searchable topic, entrepreneur, business mentor. And those are searchable items. So if you're using your name as your Instagram account, as your username, your name is searchable with Instagram, so make sure you change that to a searchable item. So for instance, if you are a business, an entrepreneur, a car salesman, a car dealership, whatever your career might be that someone might be searching for you want that in your name. You can also put the city that you're in. If you're a local business, you might want to put the city. So remember, you only get, I think, about 30 characters, so be very cognizant that that is a searchable item within Instagram. And then the next thing is perfecting your profile, which we will, is it?
Like when I do this.
Just stay like that. Nope. Just like, nope.
Keep being
Okay, I'm gonna keep doing. Okay, so the next, and it goes kaboom. We know why I'm not in Cirque du Soleil. we know why I'm not in Cirque du Soleil. Okay, so I'll keep talking while I'm picking up batteries in the remote control.
Chris, would you text Christian? That was the best throw up.
Dude, that was pretty good. I thought I was gonna have that there too. I was like, two times. So the next thing in your Instagram profile is your bio. Think of this like a resume instead of just typing in a bunch of line items. Think of it like a resume. If someone's coming to your page for the very first time, what do you want them to know about you? And remember, if you're using this for business, you're not going to put that you're a dog, unless you're in the dog business. You're not a dog lover. You're not a travel this. Think of it just like you're putting together a business resume of exactly what you want that follower to take a look at. Then you also want to make sure you're utilizing the website URL. So I'm out of breath from picking up batteries. You want to make sure you use the website URL to whatever website you want people to go to. Then make sure there's an email. Put the email that you want. Second mistake I see people make is they use their regular email address. I would create a specific email address for your Instagram account. So that way, when an email comes in, you know it's coming from exactly your Instagram account. So I have IG@ShawnThomas.com, and whenever I get an email there, I know that's someone that clicked the email to come to my Instagram account. The next thing is your phone number. Same thing. I have a dedicated phone number that goes through a Google Voice, so I know exactly that that's somebody coming from Instagram. The next thing is Instagram stories these days is getting more conversion and more engagement than the news feed itself. Most people, statistically speaking, are not looking past your last 12 photos or your last 12 posts on Instagram. Think about if you go through Instagram, you're not scrolling down somebody's thing if they have 500 posts, right? You're just looking at the past probably 12 to 15. So you want that 12 to 15, the very last photos that you've posted, to be spot on with exactly what you want your followers to see. So even if you put up something that might be a special promotion for 3 hours, 6 hours, 2 days, take that post down so that your last 12 to 15 photos, when someone comes to your page, it looks synonymous, that's consistent in your branding and your messaging, so it grabs somebody's attention. Okay? And then if your Instagram stories, it's kind of hard to give you a demonstration of Instagram stories, but Instagram stories now has a feature where if you have 10,000 followers or more, you can use a swipe up that can send people to your website. Get to 10,000. My advice to you as a consultant for Instagram is get to 10,000 followers as soon as possible on Instagram if you use Instagram, because that swipe up feature gets more engagement than the website link in your profile. Instagram stories is so much more engaging. It's what's the special like right now? And people are very active and engaged on Instagram stories.
He's bringing a new HDMI cable.
Okay, sounds good. Lisa, this is going to take an extra 30 minutes, so we'll make sure you catch your flight. All right, sounds good. Well, I'll bypass the first few slides and I'll just talk about it. I'm a very visual person, so I like to see what's on the screen so you can follow along both in visual and in speaking. But one of the things that when I started Ask a Millionaire on Instagram, a lot of people were always asking me, how did you find success? And so I narrowed it down to two things that Anthony talked about it as well. And the first was, I believe in something that I call the power of naivety, and which I'm going to explain. I did a TEDx talk on this. And the second thing I talk about is a slogan that I came up with called "Most Won't, I Will." Anthony talked about this specifically is successful people are willing to do what unsuccessful people won't do and don't know how to do. And what I have found in any type of job, any type of company that I've worked with, any type of employees that I've hired, any type of business partners I've done business with, it's very apparent to see the people that are willing to do what others won't. You probably see that in your teammates and in your employees as well. The next thing I want to talk about is called the power of naivety. People always say, well, how did you find success? In all the times that you are fearful of what the outcome might be, you might be cynical based on experiences that you've had, cynical based on the things your parents tell you to do. And so I did a TEDx talk about this, and the link is on my website at ShawnThomas.com. But basically, we're all born with an innate emotion called naivety. And most of us have a very negative connotation of the word naive because it's something that we just think, oh, we might be stupid, we might be, might not be smart. But really it's just, naive is nothing more than inexperience. We all possess naivety in our life. And I believe that it was the power of me harnessing that emotion of naive that kept me having a curious mindset. In trying to do anything that I wanted to do in life was to be curious. It's very easy to be fearful. It's very easy to be cynical. And if you talk to most successful people out there in the world, they're all going to tell you that they're optimistic or they're excited about the future. My parents, I was fortunate enough to say that my parents were the type of parents that were not the parents that said, be careful. You got to protect yourself from the outcome of something that's going to happen. They knew at an early age that I was the type of child that they said, just go for it and live with the decision that you made. No regrets. And I think about that naivety is nothing more than not knowing what the outcome is going to be and saying, hey, I don't care. I just want to try, because it's better to try and fail than to not try at all. And so fear, over the 3 years that I was answering questions on Instagram and doing live streams, which I do almost every single day, the number one question I get is, how do I overcome fear? And so I always tell people that I mentor and the people I do business with, think about what are you protecting yourself from if you're fearful. If you're fearful of making a decision to do something, if you protect yourself from fear, you're preventing yourself from success as well. So think about that. Write that down. If you protect yourself through fear, you're preventing yourself from success. And it's so easy to see the people that are controlled by fear of what the outcome is going to be. And so that's why I say, if you harness that power of naivety, it just says, I don't know what's going to happen, but who cares? I'm going to try. If I'm not going to die and I'm not going to go broke from this one decision, then I'm just going to try and see what I can do. And then the next thing is most won't, I will. And I feel like I'm stealing all of Anthony's material here, but in everything that I did when I was in insurance sales, making the 100, 150 phone calls a day, getting to the office first, being the last one to leave, it was that mindset of most won't, I will. I'm willing to do what others won't in order to succeed. And if I don't know how to do it, which that happens on a daily basis still, I'm willing to learn so that I can always elevate to the next level of whatever I'm trying to do. And the number one misconception that I get when I meet people, especially on social media, because of the moniker Ask a Millionaire is, well, what do you do once you have what you set out to have? So if your goal this year might be to make $250,000 a year, it might be to make $100,000 a year, or you want to build up to where you have a nest egg of $1 million or $5 million, whatever it was, when you reach that goal, if you do the things that you're supposed to do, when you reach that goal, you don't just die, you set new goals. And so you're always looking to elevate to that next level. And that's what most won't, I will is being willing to do what others won't to get where you want, but then you're consistently going to be able to be learning things that you don't know how to do today. Yes, sir. IGTV. So IGTV is a new feature on Instagram. I personally don't use it. It's a way of pre-recording videos in a certain format for Instagram and only Instagram in order for you to have content that stays permanently in your profile under your IGTV channel. So on that same note, that would make me help you understand how I was able to build a pretty large following on social media. And it's all about, I treated Ask a Millionaire like a TV channel. I originally started off when Instagram did not have live streaming and they didn't have Instagram stories. So I would basically post content, kind of like the motivational memes like Anthony had. I would post content and then I would always have a call to action that said, feel free to send me a direct message if you want to ask a millionaire a question. And of course, well, I guess I should say I was a millionaire and am a millionaire. So that's the first thing that a lot of Instagram, I tried to be transparent with people of how I started my company and how I sold it. And all day long, I was basically answering questions on direct message. And then back in 2015, Twitter invested in a program called Periscope. And I was an early adopter on Periscope. And I loved Periscope because I could basically just treat it like a TV channel and people could just log into my live stream and ask me questions. And I would just sit there. I was renting a house in Manhattan Beach at the time after I sold my company. And I basically would just go on 3 or 4 times a day and I would just answer questions. That was it. You know, I've always been a very giving person. I've always been very generous with my time. And it was always a goal of mine when I was younger that I just wanted to become rich so that I could help other people. And so it was like a blessing in disguise that these technologies came out. And so I would go on a Periscope 3 or 4 times a day. And I was very transparent with my life. I love to drink wine. I drink bourbon. I did some drunken Periscopes, which the people really loved to do because it got really dramatic and fun and emotional. But it helped people realize that I was a real person. It wasn't like somebody on TV. This was like a real guy sitting at home, answering questions, people that you wouldn't normally have access to for mentorship and for consulting. And I started building relationships during that time. And a year into it, Instagram then started to allow for Instagram live streaming and stories. And out of kind of necessity, I wasn't sure what kind of business I wanted to start again. And so people asked me, would you mentor me? Would you consult with me? And so I kind of like Anthony, I started a mentorship group called Most Won't, I Will on Facebook. And now there's a few hundred members that all pay a monthly fee to belong. And I've recruited great talent like Lisa Copeland, who you're going to hear tonight, and 13 other multimillionaire mentors. And we basically, all of the mentors donate their time to do live streams and answer questions of aspiring entrepreneurs, people that are looking to either start a business or build a business or expand their business. And so that's basically what I do all day long today for my business. And so I started the mentorship group. We sell digital, educational classes and master classes, and all through Instagram was able to build this entirely new business in my life. It's just such a powerful platform, Instagram. I tell you, the craziest thing is when I tell my normal friends, what I do, it's like I tell them I go on Instagram all day long and I post content and I answer questions, and they're like, why? And I'm, it's like, why? Yeah, and I go, well, yeah, it works. And I just feel like as an early adopter, you're always kind of the crazy one, right? When you go to your friends and you're the first one to say, I got this idea, and your friends are like, man, that just sounds crazy. It just sounds crazy. But then when I tell them that I have built up a multi-6-figure business in 2 years doing it, it wasn't even something that I thought to try to do, but it's bringing in multi-6 figures. I'm networking with some of the, the most amazing other entrepreneurs that are now mentors in my group, and it's all because of Instagram. I'm really excited about the future of it because Instagram is just a really cool platform. Any questions on Instagram, Lisa? Compare Instagram to Facebook. Sure. So, for each different type of business, there are pros and cons to using different platforms. Facebook is fantastic because of the features that Facebook lets you use, which is if you're going to do a Facebook live stream where you're going to be, say, at your dealership, or you're going to provide some sort of educational content. It's easily shared with your friends and your community. It sits there for as long as you want to keep it there. And the advertising platform on Facebook is second to none. With Instagram, the way they do their live streams is it's easier to do question and answer live streams like I do because of the format of the way they display it on the screen. It's easier for me to do a question and answer type of session. But the live streams that I do, they can only stay up for 24 hours. So I try to tell people that ask me, how I do this on Instagram. I just say, like anything, you would not imagine how much work I put into this. I mean, it's literally like any business. I wake up thinking about it. I go to sleep thinking about it. I'm on a date thinking about it. I'm dreaming about this stuff. It's just like any business. Like, it is all about, being there for your customers and your clients to make sure that you're delivering the value that you want. So one of the frustrating things with Instagram is when you do these live streams, it takes it down after 24 hours. So all that content is just lost. Yes. I think for live content, people don't gravitate to Facebook. It's really challenging for me to do an Instagram or a Facebook Live where I log into somebody's live stream, and because of the way that Facebook handles somebody typing a comment, it doesn't come up on the screen like Instagram and Periscope does. If you view somebody's live stream on Periscope or Instagram, the comments come up the screen. So I can look at it and respond. I can pin a comment. It puts it on the actual screen, and it's easier to navigate. Facebook, I believe, is better for content where you're delivering content. Like when you go on and you do a talk for 15 to 30 minutes on a particular subject, or if I'm going to do a demonstration or something like that, but I'm not looking for the interaction, Facebook is better there. But for live interactive type videos, Instagram is better because it's easier to interact with the audience and develop a relationship. Facebook, you would go in after the fact, or you have to kind of divert your attention. This is kind of a broadcasting video lesson. Every second you take from looking at the video camera itself, the person feels like you're not engaging with them anymore. So if I'm looking at the comments to see who's leaving a message, the audience that's looking at me is now looking at the top of my forehead or the top of my head, and they can't see what I'm doing, and I'm not engaging. And with Instagram, it's so much easier to see it. Yeah, I reach on my Instagram account, I reach roughly 600,000 people in a week, 600,000 accounts on Instagram in a week. It would take me, I just don't know if my type of content would reach that big of an audience on Facebook. I just don't know if it would. Because people like the instant gratification of Instagram. That's why I think Instagram is doing so well. It's visual, much more visual, and instant gratification on Instagram stories and live. I just don't think people are everything I read and all the people I talk to that have big accounts on Facebook and Instagram, their Instagram stories get 10 times the amount of viewership than their Facebook stories, even though it's the exact same content. I think it's just the type of audience. But I think Facebook is a much more powerful place to advertise your products and services, and Instagram is a great place to get engagement, to then use it for, which I'm going to explain in the last slide, which this last slide will explain what I use for Instagram. Okay, so what does this? Okay, so really quick then, I'm just going to go through, you guys are in the automotive business. I'm a salesperson, always been a salesperson. I think every entrepreneur has to be the best salesperson in their company, to lead by example, and what have you. I believe that numbers never lie. I was taught by my very first trainer that I don't care what words you speak to me, just show me the numbers, because the numbers are going to tell me whether you were doing the job that you were supposed to do or you weren't. It's that simple. So this is my life. This is my life in numbers. So the first is I grew up to in a military family. Both my parents were in the Army. Know anything about the military life? We didn't have a lot of money, and I had an older brother, and He got first priority going to college 6 years ahead of me. So my dad said, you know, if you want the nice clothes and the shoes and everything that your friends have and you're whining and bitching about not having, then you need to start working. So at 12 years old, I started working for Boy. And I grew up in Alaska. So if anybody knows anything about Alaska, it gets pretty cold there in the winter. And I did it for 2 years. I used to deliver newspapers pitch black at 4 o'clock in the morning in 30-degree below zero weather, worried if there's going to be a bear or a moose on my paper route delivery. Like, seriously, it was crazy. As I look back on it, I'm going, I was so stupid. But anyway, so that's where I got my start really early. At 18 years old, I graduated high school. I had dreams of becoming a professional singer. MTV came out when I was in high school. I know MTV is a lot different now, but for back in my generation, I'm 48 now, MTV was like the place for the music business. It got all the kids wanting to get on MTV. And I had dreams to go on MTV, so I believed that I needed to move to California if I wanted to pursue a dream of being a recording. So I moved to California with the intention of doing that. I also got into college at the time, junior college, just to make my parents happy. And at 21 years old, I got a record deal on Warner Brother Records, and I traveled the country with Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus for a year. So this was the first time in life that I really implemented those two things that I talked about. The first was the power of naivety. Think about this. Growing up in a small town in Alaska, many of you might have grown up in a small town as well. Small town in Alaska, if I had told anybody at that time what my dreams were of getting a record deal, traveling the country, getting on MTV, most people, especially adults, would say, you're out of your mind, you need to go to college, you need to get a degree, you need a backup plan. And so it was that at that moment where, as I look back, that was my first time that in my life I said, I'm naive, I think I can do it. Fortunately, it panned out, but it was that belief that I didn't know what was going to happen, but if I didn't take the chance, I would never know. So I did it. I gave myself the opportunity. I got in the game. Now, during those 3 years from 18 to 21, I went to school full time. I worked 3 jobs, bartending, sitting on tables, and I started telemarketing. So that's where I learned my telephone skills doing telemarketing. So at 21 years old, I got a record deal. I traveled the country on Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey Circus. After the year was up, which was a really cool year, I will say, we played Madison Square Garden for 6.5 weeks, which no artist has ever done that. So it's kind of a pretty cool claim to fame. But at 25 years old, 4 years later, I claimed bankruptcy. After we got out of the circus, they said, hey guys, you did a great job. Take care of yourselves. And at that time, I'm 22 years old. I have no idea what I want to do. I have no college degree. And as I think it was Anthony that said the same thing. I'm plagiarizing your whole speech here, Anthony. You know, there were certain industries that would take somebody that didn't have a college degree, and insurance was one of those. So I got into the insurance business. I knew nothing about insurance at all, but I got into financial trouble just spending. I was still living in the lifestyle of the Rockstar status, got myself in financial debt, didn't have any mentors, didn't have anybody to look up to, and I ended up claiming bankruptcy. From 22 to 32 years old, or 23, that 10-year stretch, I call that my decade of disaster. I literally lived paycheck to paycheck, not knowing where my next meal was going to come from, continued to make bad business decisions and financial decisions. And what would happen is I'd go work in insurance, I'd work all these odd jobs, make money, and try every get-rich-quick scheme I could. I mean, every business opportunity imaginable that told me, if you buy my program, if you buy this, you can make 6 figures in 6 months. I fell for every single one of those, which I see that on Instagram every day today. And so that's why I urge so many of the people that follow me to let me guide them and mentor them and keep them away from a lot of those types of opportunities. So I didn't know anything about business, but I did know how to sell. And finally, at the age of 32, I started my business selling to hotels. The company was called Uniguest. I was the first company that put there's a room right behind here called the Business Center Room. There's computers that you can use in every hotel pretty much in America now, actually worldwide. And I started a company selling those computer systems to hotels. I was living in Memphis, Tennessee at the time. I worked 16 to 20 hours just like I do today and have always for the first 7 years of that business. I woke up, first one to the office to open up, last one to leave. the most won't I will mindset. And then at 36 years old, finally, I became debt-free. When I started that company, I was $100,000 in debt. So from the time I claimed bankruptcy to the time I was 32, I still racked up $100,000 in debt. And half of that was just to the IRS, because I was like, I'll pay the IRS someday. Okay. So at 32 years old, I finally started the company. 36 years old, I became debt-free. And then at 2 years later, I made $998,000 in 1 year. I wish I could say $1 million, because I wanted that to be, everybody says, when did you make your first $1 million? But I have to be transparent and direct. It was $998,000. Now, if anybody who knows anything about business, you don't really get $998,000 in your checking account because Uncle Sam takes theirs. But it was still a pretty good little claim to fame to be able to say I made that much in 1 year. At 43 years of age, 5 years later, we sold our company for a little over $20 million. I owned 43% of the company at the time and became financially independent. My goal when I was in my mid-20s was to start a company and sell it for $5 million. And I got a little over $7 million of that $20 million. So I reached that second goal in life. The first, become a rock star. And the second was to become rich. Because when you're a kid, who doesn't want to become a rock star and be rich, right? So I achieved the two things that I wanted. And like many entrepreneurs, I decided I had to learn how to handle that kind of money. I had to learn how to figure out what I wanted to do next. You know, a lot of people ask me, at what age did you figure out what your passion was? You know, you hear this, if you do what you're passionate about, you never work a day in your life. You know, it's that Instagram motto, social media motto. I'm 48 and I still don't know what I want to do with the rest of my life. You know, I don't believe that my passion was selling computer systems to hotels. If you had asked me if I was going to do that as a kid, I would have been like, I don't even know, I got a D in computers. There's no way I'm going to do that. My passion was I wanted to be a business owner, and I wanted to make great money so that I could be financially independent and be able to do what I want, when I want, how I want, where I want, and with who I want. You know, that's what my passion was. It wasn't the industry or the product category that I was in. So after I sold my company, I decided I was going to take some time off. I started Ask a Millionaire, and I became what's called an angel investor. An angel investor is an individual like myself that meets this weird criteria, you know, that you're supposed to be, that you can start investing in other entrepreneurs. And the first investment I made, I decided I really wanted to commit myself to helping somebody else become a millionaire and become successful. So there was a guy that was couch surfing. He was a friend of a friend. I let him stay at my house, and I started mentoring him. He was using a lot of payday loans and a lot of AR, accounts receivable loans and things like that, very high interest rate money. And I consolidated all of his debt, was able to invest about $500,000 into his company. And I increased that to $950,000 over the next couple years. And now the guy's company is doing over $10 million in annual sales. He's a multimillionaire and his brand is just killing it. And so as an angel investor now, I spend not only my mentorship and money helping entrepreneurs, and I tell you, that has become more of a blessing in my life, mentoring others and helping them achieve the goals that they want, than me making $1 million myself. I think I went out of the mic, didn't I? Oh, there we go. So that was what I did at 45 years old, was I invested. And that guy's company is named Hammett. It's a handbag company. Believe it or not, it's a guy that runs a handbag company out of Los Angeles. You can check him out. He's all over. He's already been all over TV, CNBC, MSNBC. His company is just killing it. So to recap, you know, what leads to success? I believe it is the power of naivety. If you can implement that one thing in your life today, whatever your profession is, if you implement that one thing in your life of thinking about, if you ever feel fearful of the future or the outcome of a situation, say, maybe I just need to be naive about this. I don't know what's going to happen, but if I don't take a chance, I'll never know. So let's just go ahead and try. Now, I'm not saying jump off a bridge like a lot of Instagram quotes say, an entrepreneur jumps off a bridge and builds a parachute on the way down. That's idiotic. You know, you could still build a parachute and jump off. You know, but don't be stupid with your decision making. I made a lot of stupid decisions too. But you know, it's okay to plan. It's okay to be realistic in our dreams. But Think about that naive mindset of just taking a chance, even though you might not know what the outcome is. Okay? And then the last thing is most won't, I will. So this is my mantra that I say to myself whenever I do my goal setting exercises each year. By living with a naive mindset, I'm not controlled by fear, and I allow myself to see the future with unlimited potential. I will do what successful people do and continually learn how to develop the skills to continue to grow and reach new heights. In that sentence, what I try to implore into people that I mentor and people that I coach is this. If you want to know how to succeed, do what successful people do. Every successful person that you speak to, and we're all successful in our own rights, we have no problem telling you what we do. And the funny thing is, it's the stuff that isn't sexy, the making 100 phone calls a day, the answering 100, all those emails at night. It's those things that lead to success. And that's what gets you the sexy things in life, the time off, the cars that you imagine driving, the mansions you want to live in, the giving to charity. It all becomes a new evolution in your life. So here's the Instagram anatomy. I'll go over, I think I got 1 minute left. AKA Shawn Thomas username. You can see I have business mentor, Insta coach. Those are the two searchable things. I put there that I'm the original live stream mentor. I put a little bit of social proof. If I'm going to get people to want me to mentor them or coach them, I want them to know that I have credentials. I was an Inc. 500 company. I was successful $20 million exit. I now mentor entrepreneurs. I coach them on Instagram strategies. And then I have a call to action. DM me for an audit. If you don't tell people that you're wanting to sell, if you don't tell people that you have a product to buy, they're not going to buy from you. So I'm a heavy believer in call to actions on your profiles. And then Lisa, to answer your question, this is how I use Instagram, is this graph. It all starts with a brand identity. Every business has a brand style guide, a brand identity, which is not only just your name, but it's your logo, your color palette, which is your primary and secondary color palettes, your font package, your headline, your body, your sub-headlines, your whole brand style guide has to be in place before you really implement it. That's your foundation. Then you create lead magnets, which are things that you provide for a value to your clients or your prospect to get them to come into the dealership or to come into your website. You offer them something in return for exchange for their email or their phone number. Platforms, using the same platforms to your profile, to lead generation and conversion strategy. I'll leave you with this. The number one best way to get your Instagram followers to convert and become customers is to engage and send them a direct message. Every single time somebody conscientiously likes or leaves a comment, that is somebody walking on your lot on Instagram. Send that person a DM, and thank them for engaging on your page. You'll freak them out. They're like, is this a robot sending me a message or are you a real person? They get surprised because nobody does it. So if you send them a message and say, thanks for leaving me a comment, thanks for liking my post. If there's anything I can do for you, let me know. And by the way, here's an article I wrote on the top 10 things to overcome fear. Just click this link and I'll send you this free article because this is the number one question I get. People will go crazy thinking that, wow, this person is reaching out to me because nobody does it. How Chris said about pay-per-click being old school, if you want to get on the cutting edge of dominating on Instagram, DM. You will freak people out. Number one strategy that I'm seeing on Instagram right now, engage with the people following you. Show them that you care and they will do business with you. All right, thanks for the time. Sorry I went over. Appreciate it.
Shawn Thomas. He needs more than that.